Rockstars. My name is Anthony Davian. I'm from DavianLetter.com. Welcome to the very first episode of what we are calling Price Point. And I want to first thank TraderAlamotv for inviting me to come onto the channel and do this little show. This started off as a little show that I started doing once every week for people that don't subscribe, and I was just trying to give out nice little trades. And what this show is going to entail every week is we're going to cover one or two trades depending. I usually like to kind of do them in pairs because I'll usually do one long position and one short position, or one long position with a hedge against it. And what we usually do is we cover in the aspect of why it's called price point is we give what I'll do is I'll give you an entry point, a profit target, and a stop loss. Simple, easy, and just very straightforward. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two, like I said, two positions. We're going to cover what I just talked about, but we're going to cover them in a couple different ways. I'll briefly talk about it in a general sense. Like if we're going to talk about gold, we're not going to talk about futures. We'll talk about a liquid way that everybody can trade it, and we'll do it in the GLD, and I'll even talk about what I might do in terms of options trade. And same with everything else we kind of cover. Unfortunately, we are going to get into some stuff like with currency crosses, where I will talk about a currency cross, like maybe what I think about the dollar, and I'll give you kind of easy ways to get long or short the dollar using ETFs and so forth. So I'm going to try to make it where it's approachable for everybody, but at some point, you know, it is going to get to a point where in some weeks, maybe what I'll try to always do is like maybe if we do a currency cross, I'll do something else to match it up against so everybody has a trade for the week. So let's go ahead and we're going to get started, and we're going to start the inaugural show with a basic look at what's going on with the GLD and the USO, because these are two very hot names. And you know, we had CPI out this week, and you know, inflation data, and it doesn't look like inflation's slowing like people thought. And I don't believe the deflation trade is on the table. And Phil Dunham from he's part of DavianLetter.com. We were actually talking about a couple notes that we were reading about that most of these brokerages and desks and banks are actually thinking that the deflation trade is probably going to be off the table. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to look at David Rosenberg stuff, he's one of my favorite people that I read on the street, not including some of my Twitter people like Davian and TraderAlamotv and Upside Trader and a couple of those guys, and I didn't name them in any order. I'm just throwing them off the top of my head as I can remember. But anyways, I think the deflation trade has been actually, has been a little bit more of a worry than the inflation trade should be. I know the inflation trade is crowded. I know that. But David Rosenberg wrote in his piece that this last pullback in commodity prices, from a historical perspective, hasn't been as great as other ones. So commodity prices are going to start government spending, economic stimulus or economic recovery. They're going to start at a higher level. So it's going to become much more painful to the upside when they start to move. And we're already starting to kind of see that. And I know a lot of people are going to argue, well, it's dollar weakness and so forth. And I'm not going to disagree with that. But once the inflation catches on, the fact that gold is starting from $940 an ounce as opposed to $700 an ounce is a huge thing. Or that the fact that oil is starting at $60 a barrel, when the last time around, in the last big correction in oil prices, it was starting back at, I think, what was it, $30 a barrel. So we're getting these wide discrepancies in where commodities are starting from. And so let's jump right in gold. I made a video about a week ago when I was talking about gold. I was liking gold at this 89, the GLD at this 89 level back out. This was the kind of the top of this old channel here. So now what we're looking at is, okay, so fine, that held. Let me make sure my pointer's on so I can do my little clicky click with my software. So now that this level here is held, we've obviously, the area that I was looking for was this 50 EMA, which was at 91.08. We moved back not only above this down, the little descending trend line, we moved back above that 50 EMA. Now, from a risk reward standpoint, this is still a pretty decent trade here. The next area we're going to look at for the upside is 93, but to the downside, since we have the 50 EMA there, that's always a perfect opportunity to get in and buy. So anytime this thing dips down, you touch that 50 EMA 91.08. It's a great time to buy. And then what you do for your stop loss is you just set a stop loss, maybe 2 to 3% below there, and that would put you right around here. So if you were to buy here, I would put a stop loss just below that 89 level, maybe 88.77 around there. If you're fortunate to sit at your screen, kind of feel it out. And then obviously, if that doesn't hold, the next area for support isn't going to be to 87.70. So even if you were to buy at roughly about this 91 level and you were to come down here and test this 200 and you held, you're only looking at about a 5% downside with an upside potential of, you know, roughly about $96 right now. So the risk reward is fairly decent. You know, I don't know that I would be jumping into this, you know, hand over fist right now because it's just finally starting to make a little bit of a comeback. But like I said, anywhere around the 50 EMA, I think that could be a good point to get in. Like I said, I would keep a stop around 89. Although me personally, 5% to the downside here, 87.70 was where I would probably put a stop loss and see if that area holds. If that area is violated, I would get the heck out because you don't have a whole lot of support down below there. Upside profit obviously would be the most recent 3-month high of 96.98. But I think if we go up and we take out that level, that could cause a whole new group of buyers to come in, as that will then get gold up over that $1,000 an ounce level that everybody likes to keep their eye on. So that's a quick run on the GLD. Let's take a quick look at the USO. We got long the USO just about a week ago. I have calls on the USO, and I have AUG calls, and I sold July 34 calls against it, which I don't know. We're going to see what's going to happen tomorrow. But we had this little base come down here, and once again, much like gold, there was like this little channel back here that had like this little consolidation area before it moved up on this last leg. Well, we're in this area here now. And my profit, the reason I got in, because I was looking at this 32 level, and all I wanted to do was catch a quick bounce of 34.60, which was the 50 EMA. That's still my plan. I will probably just get out of my options once it gets up here. What I will do is if it breaks above that 50 EMA, I might come back into the trade. That's that's kind of a lot between now and then. So that's my thinking. My downside, obviously, since I've been here about that 32, I have August 32 calls. My stop loss is roughly about 31, give or take maybe 2% to the downside there. So from a risk reward, it's decent. I was just looking for like a real quick little trade up to here. It's the minute this thing hits 34.60, like I said, I'm going to be out, and I will wait for it to see if it moves back above that 50 EMA. And if it's able to do that, I might be willing to get long this in a longer term. But right now, I'm very much short term with this trade. So that's the first profit point. I hope everybody liked it. I'll be back next week. If you ever want anything on here, please, I'm on Twitter. I'm at Hedgy Guy, at DavianLetter. You can go to my website and email me through there if you have a topic for profit point you'd like to see on here. And I'll see everybody next week. Tight stops, merry trading.